After Hillary wins, what should conservatives do? Or rather, what will Trumplicans allow conservatives to do? A Clinton restoration will leave Americans looking for alternatives. Will conservatives be ready? That's the question posed by Ian Tuttle yesterday at nationalreview.com. A new Washington Post ABC News poll released on Tuesday shows that Hillary Clinton's post-convention era of good feelings lasted approximately 3 weeks. Despite months of relentless media coverage of Donald Trump, his endless string of campaign calamities, and the increasingly widespread view that Trump is a bigot, the worst thing you can be in American public life, the two candidates are about equally unpopular. He's viewed unfavorably by 60% of registered voters. She, 59%. Which is to say that when Hillary Clinton is elected in November, she is in for a miserable 4 years, because none of the sources of her unpopularity are going away. They are inherent. First are the scandals. Ongoing litigation surrounding Mrs. Clinton's emails and her use of a private email server will stretch into her first term in office and is certain to yield further embarrassing revelations, like this week's discovery that Mrs. Clinton failed to turn over several emails related to the Benghazi attacks. And it was recently reported that, for whatever Pyrrhic reasons, field offices of the FBI are considering investigating the email scandal in conjunction with various U.S. attorneys' offices. Even if those inquiries turned up nothing, their presence would continue to prompt questions about how seriously Mrs. Clinton is taking security and transparency concerns as president, having spent her several years as Commissar of State evading both. And of course, looming over all of this will be the question of the Clinton Foundation. Given everything we know already about the way the Clinton Foundation operated during Mrs. Clinton's tenure at the State Commissariat, could we trust that the foundation and her White House would truly be separate? Yeah, that's what I thought. Hillary Clinton's presidency will almost inevitably sit under a cloud of suspicion. And that will be of her own making, of course. Voters' sense that Hillary is untrustworthy is not a fluke. It's the consequence of the years she has spent paraphrasing and circumlocuting. And of course, she doesn't have any kind of charisma or likability to distract from that, or to mitigate it, or leaven it. Oh, and yes, outright lying. That has only reinforced what was obvious to many from their first introduction to the Clintons in the early 1990s. She has always been determined to claw her way into the Oval Office by sheer force of will. Ruthless calculation may be effective, but it's not attractive. People will tolerate Hillary, but they won't like her. And they will lament and lambaste and eviscerate the GOP for not giving them an actual choice, an alternative. And she will not be able to distract from any of the above with good governance, Lord knows. She has said that she will be Barack Obama's third term, and the policies she has proposed suggest as much. In response to years of economic stagnation, she will maintain or expand the bureaucratic solutions that in fact have helped to entrench the problems. It's not unlikely that Mrs. Clinton will preside over a second recession within the Second Great Depression. But the Democrats' health care monstrosity creating headaches for millions of people nationwide, she promises to strengthen its grip. As half the nation seethes over unconstitutional immigration directives, she promises to effectively abrogate American immigration law in toto. Hadn't Barack Obama already done that? Whatever. And she will divide rather than reconcile on race and guns and abortion and conscience rights and much else. Doubling down on the last 8 years is certain to yield more of the same frustration and anger, which seems to lead to the entrenchment of Democrats in the White House, if 2016 is any indication. None of this will be good for the country. But it does offer conservatives an opportunity, if Trumplicans will allow it. The time is now to come up with a comprehensive, positive agenda. Hey, there's a concept, something to vote for, that presents a coherent and compelling alternative to the failed liberal agenda that in 2020 will have held power for a dozen years. Paul Ryan and the House Republican Conference have tried to do this with their Better Way agenda, which offers an expansive, detailed agenda for 6 major areas: the economy, tax reform, health care, poverty and upward mobility, national security, and lastly, but never leastly, the United States Constitution. You hear that, Doug? It's this agenda or something like it that will be crucial if conservatives hope to see more than a rump opposition, which is what Trumplicans would render us. So will be a dedication to promoting this agenda beyond traditional Republican borders, outside the Fox ghetto. In other words, a positive agenda needs to be pitched in Baltimore and Milwaukee, not just Orange County. And finally, there must be leaders who understand how that agenda reflects conservative principles and can articulate both as necessary. I'm going to clue you in, Trumplicans. Nobody who thinks or acts as you do will be the person for this job. You're not going to want to hear this, but it's going to be someone like Paul Ryan. It's going to be someone like Scott Walker. It's going to be someone like Ted Cruz or even Marco Rubio or somebody similar. It's going to be a never Trumper, in other words. Never Trumper. It's not going to be anybody who drank the Trump Kool-Aid. See why I'm saying if Trumplicans will allow conservatives to even oppose Hillary? This is a tall order, but hardly an impossible one. And when Donald Trump loses handily, as it seems and is more and more likely, it will be a ready-made opportunity to reconstitute conservatism to address the needs of a larger and more diverse group of Americans. Oh man, the idea of having something and someone to vote for as a conservative voter is absolutely orgasmic at this point. It really is. 4 years of Hillary Clinton will be enormously painful, not just for conservatives, but for the country. But millions of non-ideological Americans, in other words, the voting majority, the low information voters, are going to be pained by it too. and looking for an alternative. When 2020 rolls around, conservatives should have one to offer, and wouldn't that be a grand thing indeed?